Welcome to Subconscious Elements, a podcast where we talk about movies, books, ideas, and how they relate to the journey of life and how our subconscious mind affects our everyday and kind of just how it all relates to like the spiritual journey. But the first series of this podcast is about the Gene Keys. The Gene Keys is a book written by Richard Rudd, and it's kind of like a design or a map to your life. And, he talks about it being a living wisdom in that the more you contemplate about it, the more you think about it, the more you talk about it, the more you can pull wisdom from it. And so this is kind of how we're going about it. We're using this podcast to talk and discuss the ideas present in the Gene Keys because we already kind of both listen to it and try to incorporate some of the ideas in our lives. So what better way to incorporate these ideas than to spend time studying it and then talking about it. And I'll introduce my co-host, Tori.
Hi, I'm Tori Setliff, and today we'll be speaking about the second Gene Key, and this is returning to the one. So within the second Gene Key, it's going to be archetypically feminine in nature, and the codon ring of that is going to be the ring of water. So I deeply relate to that, obviously being a woman myself. And naturally, the element of water has been something that I've been drawn to in my life. Growing up on an island, being surrounded by water, it's always been something that deeply resonates to my being. The second Gene Key, the shadow is going to be dislocation. So basically, in origin, we are residing within the unity of consciousness and like the mother energy. And through the birth process and through manifestation of physical form in our human perspective, we are disoriented and dislocated. And this is the frequency that most humans reside in. And so just becoming aware of that and that sense that we can all feel within ourselves of feeling lost or disconnected, or it's all mostly an illusion, that we're always connected to the whole, whether we sense that and experience that daily or not.
Right. So like the idea that there's no such thing as making a wrong choice. And so it's trying to tell you to kind of like rely on your instincts and just go, and that you can't be out of sync with the universe, that no matter what you do, you'll be in sync. And so to just trust that. And there's like so many things to go into that, just those ideas. But real quick on the codon ring, earlier we said that we really didn't understand what it was, or at least I did. You might have explained it better, but just for those of you who don't know, so each gene key has a codon ring, and essentially that is a link to another gene key that you can read and study that might give you more insight on the other one. So this one was the ring of water, and it was tied to the 8th gene key. And I delved into the 8th gene key to contemplate it, to see if I could pull more from the second one, and I definitely did it. It pretty much is like, it's very similar to the second one. It almost gives you like further concepts. So it is different, but at the same time, it's like they definitely both coincide. So if you're like me, so this one's like about femininity. The first time I listened to it, I was like, well, I don't understand anything that this one's saying. And, being able to go to the 8th one and have it kind of like explore the idea further was very interesting. Like I said, I'm not sure exactly, how linked they are, if it's like the 8th one is like how directly connected it is, but I was able to definitely pull more from the second one by listening to the 8th one. And I didn't get to do that for the first gene key, which was tied to 14. 14,
yeah.
But it'll be interesting when we circle back around to 14.
And tie back number 1.
And tie back to number 1. But so anyway, so like what we're talking about, how you're never out of sync with the universe, but it was saying that you have to have that experience. So even though the experience itself is an illusion, you have to feel like you're out of sync with it so that you can become more finely tuned, or to get back you know, I mean, you're not really going back to anything, but it's such a funny thing to think about. But it was just saying that the experience of feeling out of sync is a vital one. So you like, even though you're never out of sync with it, you have to sometimes feel like you are.
Yeah, I can understand that, and the feeling of being lost and feeling like something's wrong with you, but once you become aware of the lower frequency, you can start transcending it into a higher frequency. And once you start doing that, you can see that these synchronicities are happening for you, and everything in your life is happening for you. And once you let go of all of the suffering and ties and fear that you have based on it, then you can accept that reality, and it becomes closer and closer to your residing level of consciousness and frequency. And therefore you'll have more synchronicities, and your timing only becomes more and more in sync with the universal plan and truth.
Yeah, I definitely go through like waves of experiencing synchronicity and then not experiencing it. I experienced some today. I thought that was really cool. Yeah, I really felt like the second one I kind of felt like today. It's like I was feeling some anxiety about getting a new camera for our setup, and listening to this, I was like, man, just what are you stressing about? It's like, the only reason I wouldn't want to get it is the fear, the fear of spending the money on it. But I was like, you know what, just do it. And as soon as I did it, one of our friends came through and sent us some money for it, to help pay for it, because he wanted to support us. So it's like, just, not giving into the fear and just doing it, And, it's hard to like decipher between like what's a thought should you just shoo away, and then what's a thought that is the universe going ahead and telling you to do something. So yeah, just finding that balance, right? You don't want to give into every thought, but sometimes it makes sense.
Yeah, I was definitely saying that fear basically controls all of our thoughts and actions, and that most people only respond and act based off of fear in opposition to truth itself, and just going with the flow, like water. It kind of tied into like the martial arts aspect. It's like the more you resist something, the more difficult it is. So you might as well just go with like water, like going against the waves, going against the current.
Right. And I was saying that actions from fear don't produce the same results as actions from trust. It's like, if you can doing something because you like trust what you're doing will have a different intention than doing the same thing, but you're scared because of something else might happen. Yeah,
it locks you into repetitive patterns, and instead of breaking the boundaries and creating something new. And the 8th gene key, the city is style. And so within the style, you learn your own uniqueness, and through the uniqueness, you're able to create something that the world has never seen before.
Yeah, it was saying that by becoming more with unity, you actually develop more uniqueness, right? Which is a trippy thing to think about. But just to relate it to jiu-jitsu, the more you master the fundamentals, the more you come up with your own style. Mm-hmm. And I heard this saying one time, and I told my buddy, and he totally agreed. It was Freddie, but excellence is style. It's like, what are you excellent at? It's like the basics, the fundamentals, the core. It's like when you're excellent at the core, then you become unique, which is wild to think about.
Yeah, it's like the beaten down saying of master one move as opposed to all the moves. Like doing that repetition so many times that it becomes natural to you. And like definitely prevalent in like fight sports and stuff. Like learning one kick 1,000 times, 10,000 times, as opposed to 100 kicks 100 times.
Right. Because the one that you do 10,000 times will become something completely different than the technique you were taught. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of the point.
Evolution itself. Yeah, I was saying that we're basically just swept up by the currents of evolution, and that it happens whether we want it to, whether we feel like we have any type of opinion that matters, that it's going to happen regardless. And that it's just genetically pre-wired in our DNA, that it happens in spite of us.
Yeah. That's scary to think about. But it was saying how, on that same note, you're talking about
Evolution in the process. And it happens in spite of us. Yeah, I was basically saying that, that was saying like the humans are deeply afraid of like self-annihilation, and that it's the fear itself that's like holding us back.
Right. And then it's like, we are of nature. So it's like everyone thinks that we're moving against nature, but we are of nature. And that's what technologists will say. It's like people think that a chip is unnatural, but we are natural and we made it, so it must be natural. And, they kind of push heavy for technology. But that's like the split, It's like you meet a lot of spiritual people and they'll say that technology is pulling us away from nature and then we become more mindless because of it, or, less of who we are. But then there's the other argument is that we are meant to be making technology and that we should just go with it. I don't know about you and the ladies, but one of the number one things me and the boys talk about is like, if they come out with the new Neuralink, are you gonna get it or not? Are you gonna be one of the ones that never accept it and try to live like a traditional human, or are you gonna be one of the ones that accept it? And a part of me is like, man, I would want to be one of the first ones to accept it, to be able to like break in, not the first generation, but maybe like second generation, and then obviously the people who adapt to something the quickest are going to have the most opportunities. And, it's like when you're in technology and you see these things coming out, you want to take advantage of them. But
yeah, I was saying like we have this dream that will one day return to like primitive awareness where we just are with nature and we live off the land and we have all this. I mean, I definitely think about it all the time. I'm like, man, I just want to go out into the middle of the country and just get me a cabin and make all my food, farm. And it's like, I don't really think that that's the path for me, even though it's a nice to think about,
The number of dudes that tell me they just want to get a truck and a camper and just travel is like, that's literally every guy's dream is like, you know what? I'm getting a camper. This is like, man, but how many of us actually do that? Or maybe it's like a phase that we all go through. But I mean, me and you experienced it that one time when we were in the meadows, which is in the Smoky Mountains. So we were in like this meadow and it had like this river running through it, and it was just this beautiful place. When I just had this like many little like life like flash before my eyes. It's like, man, what if
we lived here?
Yeah, we lived here and raised kids here and became part of a community. And then it just like occurred to me that if kids grew up there, most likely they would just want to go to the big city. It's like you come to the big city and you realize, man, this ain't it. I need to make life simpler and get back to my roots. And then you'll have kids and they'll do nothing but dream of going to the big city. But I guess that's just the way things go.
Yeah, no, that is pretty funny. It was just saying that like enlightenment it has to be lived. Like you have to live it to understand it. And so it's just like what you're saying. It's like, even if we tell them the truth, they will still need to experience it for themselves to accept it as a reality. Like you can't just tell someone and they're like, okay, yeah, you're right. No, they have to experience it and understand it for themselves for them to actually accept it.
Yeah. So. Well, and we were talking about that the other day with our friend Josh, and we were just saying how religion can turn a lot of kids off because they'll like try to put something on you about how something's evil or bad for you. And because they're telling you it's bad and you don't understand why it's bad, you're just like, well, these people are crazy or they're just trying to control me. And it kind of like turns you off to it. But they're just trying to help and they are giving you good information. We have like this idea that like, or, Josh was saying how when he went, the church or something, that because he listened to Metallica, that he was, listening to the devil music. And then I had the same experience where I played the game Diablo and I was just super geeked out about it. And I brought the book with this huge devil on it and took it to church. And I was trying to hide it with my Bible. And these poor Christian people were like, you need to burn this. And I was like, well, I love my video game. I don't want to burn it. And it's funny, they're going through it, and it literally has like all like these holy words like redemption and like holy shield, like all these like terms from the Bible, and like using it to cast spells. They're like, this is straight from the devil. But now then you hear that and you're just like, well, dude, I'm not gonna not play video games. It's like I was coming to church as an escape, and then they're trying to tell you that your other escape, to take away your other escape. It's like, and then it's like forcing you to choose. You're kids. What are you going to pick? Going to church or playing video games? But yeah, just that idea of like, or we're circling back to it now where we're learning about religion, and you hear about how words can affect you whether you know it or not, how music affects you in positive and negative ways whether you understand it or not. So if the song is negative, or it has like, really dark and, ominous tones and sounds to it, that it can be affecting you in a negative way. And then you look at, how video games, they're not good for us, right? They're fun, but for sure you don't want your kids just like playing,
zoning out.
Yeah, zoning out and playing games. And so these people were just trying to help us essentially, but because we didn't have
the experience,
it just kind of pushed us away. So that's something to think about as like a leader, or future parents or parents. It's like, you can't just give them the rule, right? There has to be something more to it, or otherwise they're just not going to listen. And that's the same, man. One of my instructors, I know I keep bringing it back to jiu-jitsu, and people listen to this, they're like, this, God damn it, is all he talks about. But no, one of my friends who was a world-class brown belt at the time, he's now a world-class black belt. But at the time, he was telling me how he didn't like answering questions. Me and my buddy would ask him questions, and he just like didn't really want to answer us. And he's like, if I give you the answer, I'm just robbing you. He's like, you need to figure it out for yourself. He's like, I can give you all the answers that you want, but it won't help you. He's like, only you experiencing it and you figuring it out for yourself is actually going to matter. And so he just wouldn't answer our questions, because he would just hit us with all these like crazy moves we'd never even seen before. He was like doing barambolos, like fancy like guard and spins and inversions. And we were like, how do we stop that? And he was just like, I don't know. You just walk away. But that's the truth. It's like, as you get through the sport and you teach and you teach and you teach, you realize that I've told the same people the same answers like 10 times and they're still not doing it. And it's because only through like only being aware of the moment when it happens can they actually learn from it. And because it can happen to them multiple times, but if they're not aware of it happening, there's like been so many times where you roll somebody and you tell them that you did something to them, and they're like,
they don't see the opportunity.
Yeah, they don't see the opportunity. They didn't even know that they were in that position.
Yeah, I remember multiple times where something clicked for me and I experienced it, and you're like, I've told you that so many times, and I'm like, oh really? And then you're like, you're like losing your mind. I'm like, no, this is the first time I came up with the answer. What are you talking about? You're like, I gave you the answer. It's like,
yeah, she'll be like, oh, I came up with this. Look, this happens, and then I just do this. And I'm like, oh, funny.
Sounds like something I told you.
I told you that 6 months ago. But so yeah, we're talking about just how you're talking about how experience has to be lived, right? And I think one of the things that it said was enlightenment is not an experience, which is, man, that's one of the first times someone put it in those ways. But yeah, enlightenment is just like I guess you could say a process, a journey.
Yeah, that's pretty trippy to think about. Also, it was saying like, basically at the Siddhic level, there's no duality. Like duality itself is gone, and it's just only what is, and there's no answer. So it's like the infinite questions, and there's only truth. Because everyone wants to be like, oh, it's this or this, and it's like, it's neither. At the highest level, it's neither.
Or both.
Yeah, both. Everything all at once. Yeah, no, when you were talking about the meadows, that made me think about our buddy Tyler, and how it was 3 of us, so we were all there together, and we were doing some psychedelics. So we were all sitting around a campfire, and we just had this experience where we were all just sitting there in silence, and it's like, it was no longer us individually, but we had become like a larger being. And it seemed like we were all like on the same page and like together in the same mindset. And it was referring to that in this gene key specifically, saying that the number 2 is an illusion, saying that it's only one residing in its own consciousness in like a resting form. And then once the second is introduced, it becomes a bridge that instantaneously transmutes it into 3. So it's no longer 1 and 2, it becomes 1, 2, and the relationship, just the relationship. So we experienced that with 3 of us. It was no longer 3 of us, it was just like all of us together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that like our happy emotions, because we were just sitting around a fire, just like laughing, smoking, talking about life, listening to music. And it seemed like our happiness was like contributing to like, yeah, like a higher being's happiness, which was trippy to think about. But yeah, just this whole idea of like, one of the main themes of this gene key was perception. And that by changing your like one of the like like sentences it has was, actions do not change your life. As you see it, so it changes. So like no amount of no actions will change what's going on in your life, but the way that you see things can change it. And that's what we were talking about with the whole looking at how your past happened, right? And what did you see it happening to you, or did you see it happening for you? And that's like a very simple one, but you know, just like your mindset through the day, how events happen towards you, like even in the decisions that you make, like what were the intentions behind the decisions? So I thought that was, that kind of just ties into what you're saying. And I guess it gives like one more thing of saying that perception can lead to actions or better actions, but that actions can also lead to perception, a new perception. And that kind of makes a lot of sense too, where it's like, sometimes people will put their mind through like this mental obstacle of like creating like what they think would be reality. Like you see it commonly when like someone's trying to imagine a fight, or imagine like how decisions play out, or imagine how the next project's going to be. And it's like, you cannot imagine it. You can try your hardest, but it'll most definitely be different than how you imagined it. So I'm not saying it's not smart to plan things, but some people get caught up in the planning itself. Sometimes the best thing that you can do is just take the actions, and then that will shape what you're thinking about it or how to approach something, right? So, and that's just one way to think about it, but you could also say that like, you know, like the whole like fake it till you make it idea, or, you know, that the work comes before the faith, that by doing these things, then you learn the faith, right? So it'd be like, I'm pretty sure in the Bible it has that like same concept, that like live by these tenets, you know, try to be a disciple, or, you know, live by the code, and then the blessings will come. And then that's how you'll build the faith, is that by doing these things, then you'll see the connections, and then will come the faith. That you don't have to have like this blind faith, but to do it, and then the faith will build from there. So yeah, it's just that whole idea, right? It's like we should focus on the way that we see things, not necessarily what we're doing, which is pretty deep.
Yeah, pinholing yourself in the way that you think that things should go, instead of being open to the process and allowing for what is, and not just stopping things or resisting things because you had a different idea. I see that happen a lot. It's like, no, it was supposed to be this way. And it's like, well, it's not. It's this way. So what are you going to do now? Are you going to keep contemplating about how you thought it should be, or just accept it and continue from here? It's like, once you're already behind in thought process, you can't possibly keep up. So you have to accept, let go, and move further along the path in the way that you perceive or want to shape the reality.
Yeah. Man, I just had something too.
Yeah, I was talking about how you cannot comprehend the feminine nature. It's like incomprehensible in that like the male is very structured and logical, and that the feminine doesn't follow logic.
Yeah.
I definitely think that that's true because like we've seen it. It's like this is the way that men think, and it's like one box. And then it's like this is the way that a woman thinks, and it's the spiral inside of the box with no straight lines. I definitely feel that that's true whenever we have communications or problems or anything, everyday life. It's like you want things to be this way, and then I want things to be a different way, and then we kind of clash on that sometimes.
Yeah. So it's talking about the shadow and the dislocation. So shadow is feeling like you're out of connection, but you have to know that you're always connected to the field. And then the gift is orientation. So through transmuting the shadow of dislocation, you become, I guess, like
Reoriented.
Yeah, reoriented. So you kind of like, to me, it's almost like when you're in Google Maps and it's just like, even though it's got a direction and you're on the path, if it's not like facing the way that it makes sense, it doesn't make sense. So you hit the little button and then it goes, and then it's like, right, facing the correct direction, and it shows you exactly where you're going. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I am going straight. So that's what that reminds me of. But I guess, yeah, when you understand that you're never out of sync, then it might enlighten the way forward. Or so at least let you move with confidence. Yeah, and then it was also talking about like trust, right? So you want to trust the universe. And I tell myself that a lot. It's just like, just trust the universe. Trust the universe. I had listened to one of Sadhguru's books, and it was saying how, you don't want to chase your dreams. And he didn't say you don't want to chase your dreams, but he's like, your dreams are shallow compared to what the universe can do for you. So trust the universe. Like, don't trust your dreams. Like, just give it your all, and that the amount of power that the universe has can make your dreams miss the mark. And so in the same thing, it talks about the same idea, but then it also goes into saying that even the idea of trust means that there's a trustee and a truster, and that in itself is a duality. And so that's not even the real truth.
But
right?
That gives you like an idea of what it could possibly be.
Right. And so it's like, to me, it goes to that idea of that that the higher self or the higher order is ourselves. So it's not like you're trusting. It's saying to not pretty much trust like an outside force. It's like, because we're all the same thing, kind of. I guess that's what it's saying. But just trust is only a small aspect of what it means. And when you think about that, it's like, it almost seems silly to say trust the universe, It's like, trust the universe. It's like, but that implies duality.
Yeah, words themselves are fallible.
Yeah. And it's also talking about how the year 2027 is like a part of the cycle.
Oh yeah, that's exciting. So,
Yeah, it's like we're only on 2024.
We're getting close. Yeah, I was talking about the Mayans relating 2012 to a great human genetic shift and frequency, and that it wouldn't be displayed within an individual, but rather a whole generation. So they're living amongst us right now. And I mean, I can sense it whenever you meet a kid, and you can just sense that they're on a different level than the kids that we grew up with, or the kids that our parents were or grandparents were. It's like, what is available to the generations to come now is way further advanced than what we were given when we were kids. So what it's saying about 2027 is going to be exciting. It's like a leap of consciousness that we're preparing for.
I'm going to do a lot of meditating in 2027.
You gotta do it before then.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I got to be, you want to be like on the highest frequency so you can get the downloads, which is wild to think about.
Yeah, I was saying that we have this mineral magnetism within us and within our body and organs. And it was saying that specifically within our pineal gland that there's magnetite, the mineral, and that itself magnetizes and connects us to the greater rhythms of the earth. And that all creatures on the earth, they have this and they're connected to rhythms, vibrations. And that the more that we can connect to that, the easier things will happen for us in our life. And saying that everything is connected between the spin of the atom, between the wheeling of the galaxies themselves.
Yeah. And it's like just going to that idea of like, if you think about it, it can be like hard to accept, but it's, that skill of contemplating, like playing around with the idea without like, doesn't mean you have to fully like accept it. It's just like play with it, like let it be open to it. You have to be open to these ideas to understand them.
The old world, in a sense, has like so many structures, and this is the way we're told these things are our reality. And they possibly were, but we are here to evolve and create better realities and to try to at least imagine and accept things that can be more positive for us in the future is the way forward. And it was saying that people that reach acidic states and vibrations, that the vibrations and magnetism is so strong that it in itself will make the turn of the earth different. Like the actual projection and trajectory of the earth will move differently if one person reaches acidic state. But at this point in our evolution, we are not currently in a reality. The human consciousness is not ready to accept what that means, to even allow space for someone to reach that state. And so only through our individual journeys towards enlightenment can we even come to a place that can even house the possibility of someone reaching that state. So it's like through understanding and learning and playing with ideas, like you said, and trying to imagine something greater than what we're experiencing here on this planet now.
Yeah. I felt like the Truman Show kind of had that idea in there where he was like, I want to be an explorer. And then the teacher pulls down like the map. She's like, well, the whole world's already been explored. There's nothing left to explore. He was just like, what? They're just like discouraging him from ever like
going anywhere.
Yeah, going anywhere or leaving
thinking any original thoughts.
Right. And it's like a lot of people accuse that of the education system where it's like, well, this is what there is to learn, and that is what you must learn. Not really even give you space to learn anything else. So that's always interesting. I'm running out of. I pretty much feel like we covered everything. I guess we could still talk about the city state, which was the divine logic of unity, or unity and divine logic. But one of the things that you had talked about earlier was how you brought up 1 + 1 = 3, not 2. That's I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but a principle of like business or just like humans in general, in a sense that if you have one human who does enough workload to equal 1, and you have another human who does enough workload to equal 1, and then you put them together on a team, they actually can do 3 units of work instead of 2 units of work. And it's because when you work together with someone, you can offload and like upload like ideas, and like just in our everydays, like when we go through days, like sometimes I'll just be like indecisive about something and I'll ask you and then you'll tell me. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And it's like just having that person you're working with to be able to help you like make decisions quicker, or even be like, oh, I just do it like this, you should do it like that. And it's like, oh yeah, okay. you're actually able to get more work done because you have someone helping you. You yourself become more productive. So by yourself, you're doing 1 unit of work, but when you have someone that's helping you and almost making the daily work like better, you end up being able to put out 1.5 units of work. And so it's that idea of like you always want to, and it like expounds the more people that you add to it. So three people can do 9 units of work, and then 4 is 16, and it just keeps going. Or I think it's more than that. 4 is like way more than that. Actually, I think it was like 27. It's like something crazy. It just gets, the number just goes up and up and up and up with the more people that are all working towards the same thing. And so it's just like that idea of like connecting with people and trying to create relationships.
Surrounding yourself with like-minded, next level individuals, because as you're saying, these things can become easier and we can make things exponentially higher with more people. You can equally have people that are there, but they're not working towards the same goal, and they're taking energy away from the group or away from the whole. So you have to have people that are on the same page and everyone's looking towards the higher purpose. And we're all reminding each other like what we're supposed to be doing and keeping each other accountable.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything else that you want to say about it?
The last sentence of this one, it was just saying the final destiny as a species is to realize our state of oneness and unity with all that is. And I thought that was definitely something I'll be thinking about and meditating on.
Yeah, so I want you to say it again, but I'll say this sentence that it started with. This one was tripping me out. It said, if you wanted to describe the nature of our existence to an alien, look no further than the second gene key. And I was just like, when I first read it, I was like, it's going to explain aliens? And then I listened to it again. I was like, oh, it's like if you had to explain our existence to a possible alien, lame.
Aliens are real, no.
But what was that? What was the last sentence again?
It says, the final destiny as a species is to realize our state of oneness and unity with all that is.
Interesting. It's like the purpose of our journey. It's to like, you start out feeling like you were lost and trying to find your way, and then you realize at the end that you were never lost and you were on the right path the whole time. Well, that's all we got. We appreciate you guys tuning in.